And showtime. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the ChannelPro 5-Minute Roundup. Look at news, trends, and tips for the SMB channel in 5 minutes or thereabouts. My name is Rich Freeman. I'm executive editor of the ChannelPro Network. I am also a co-host of this program. I am joined this week, as I am every week, by your other co-host, Eric Simpson, a business transformation and improvement advisor to MSPs and other IT providers. Eric, other than being really, really hot, how are you?
That's all I'm thinking about, Rich. So I guess I'm okay otherwise. But yes, it is sweltering here in Southern California. Record temperatures, triple digits. I think by this weekend we may start dipping down, but it is the hottest in September that I can remember in a long time. Consecutive days of just this heatness.
Well, we don't have time to get into the details. I'll just tell our audience that off the air, Eric and I were speaking, and in the middle of triple-digit heat, he's got an air conditioning issue that he's dealing with right now. So it's been a long week, Eric. But let's dive into our story of the week, which is actually, as we're recording this, more or less breaking news. In fact, this is a scoop that I got directly from Gradient MSP yesterday at the latest ChannelPro SMB Forum event here in DC, Washington, DC, where I'm sitting right now. Gradient MSP, for folks out there who know them, they basically came into being late in 2020. Late last year, they came out with a solution that they used to call billable. It's now called their billing module. But basically, the idea was, wouldn't it be great if you could pull in billing information from all the different cloud vendors that your customers use, pull all of that into an integration hub, and then feed all of that data out to your PSA system from the hub. So the solution that collects the data is called the billing module. The hub that collects and distributes that data to your PSA solution is called Synthesize. It's an integration platform from Gradient. What I learned this week is that within the next few weeks, Gradient is going to add another module to their system. They're calling it the Alerts module. And instead of collecting billing information, they're going to go out to all the different systems that your end users utilize and collect alerts from those systems. So instead of having to go out to a bunch of different interfaces or maybe monitor some sort of group email inbox that you set up where alerts all kind of land, instead of having to do any of that, the alerts module is going to be monitoring all these sources of information for alerts on your behalf, pulling the alerts into the Synthesize integration hub, which is then going to feed those off to your PSA system in the form of tickets. So tickets will just magically appear in your PSA system when there are alerts that you need to act on. And I don't know a lot of the details, Eric, but I'm sure that there will be ways that you can kind of customize rules around that so everything doesn't wind up producing a ticket. But it's an interesting use case. And I think, Eric, that it kind of points to the bigger picture vision at Gradient, which I think is starting to come into focus more. We knew from the moment that company came into being that they had a mission to kind of help MSPs optimize business processes, solve some of these headache-inducing, time-consuming processes. The first one that they decided to tackle was that cloud billing reconciliation issue, which is very familiar to folks in our audience. The second issue that they're addressing now is, I think, also going to be a familiar one. I don't know where they're going next, but I do know that there are more modules coming, and you can kind of see how the model is going to work going forward now based on the two modules we do know about. They're going to be using that Synthesize hub to collect information from multiple different vendors and then centralize that for you and feed it out to one place, your PSA system, a place you're already spending a lot of time, so that it's easier for you to consume and act on.
Yeah, it's very interesting as we sit back and kind of look at what Gradient is focused on and what they're doing, and they're filling very critical gaps in perhaps the between the platforms or the platform's performance that existing partners are using. We know, Rich, we've talked on the program before many times about the challenges of billing and invoicing and truing up for MSPs. And this next module with the alerting is very, very interesting because one of the big challenges that MSPs also have when they or making a decision on what kind of an RMM platform to use and things like that and how to light it up. Typically, when they do go live with it, it generates just a tremendous amount of artificial noise, and it takes MSPs quite a long time to kind of dial it down until it's usable. In fact, it is so cumbersome sometimes out of the box that MSPs just basically shut it off until they regroup and rethink how to do it. My position has always been, look, treat it like a firewall. Just only allow what you need first, the most critical things, and then open it up more and more over time. But again, it's very interesting how Gradient is kind of looking at these opportunities to become kind of that middleware that maybe makes it easier for partners to enable or manage or configure some of these critical functions that may be more difficult to optimize or time consuming to configure with their existing platforms, or maybe provide better functionality than what they're currently using. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on what they've got coming out next.
Agreed. And quick little factual note before we move on, because obviously a solution and an integration platform like the Gradients is only useful if they are in fact integrated with vendors you work with. And so they can feed data to 9 different PSAs. I guarantee you, if you use ConnectWise or Datto or TigerPaw or Halo or SyncPro, they support all the major PSAs on one side. They have integrations in place or in the works with something like 90 vendors right now. So, and they're going to be rolling out something on the order of 5 additional integrations a month. So they may or may not support all of the vendors you do business with today, but they are working towards reaching that point at some point in the not too distant future. So Eric, let's move on to your tip of the week. We were just talking about something that Gradient is trying to do to help MSPs optimize processes, but your tip of the week has to do with optimizing the organization.
Yes, Rich. So the tip of the week, I'm going to borrow from Gino Wickman's EOS methodology, specifically the book Traction, and recommend that book to MSPs and channel pros to really understand how to prioritize and get a handle on different critical aspects of the business. But one specific area I'd like to share is transitioning from an organizational chart perspective of an organization structure, which is typically based upon a person's name and a title, and then maybe some of their core responsibilities, to what's called an accountability chart. An accountability chart in the EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System methodology that Gino Wickman's created, differs from an organizational chart in a few key ways. Number one, it doesn't feature an individual's name at the top. Think of an organizational chart and in your mind, blank everything out and then start with the role. What is the role specific to what needs to happen, and what are the activities or what are the accountability actions that role needs to incorporate and execute? And when you think about it this way, Rich, then you have a large chart that will incorporate every single role within an organization, not just what's in there today, which is what typically we see an org chart be, is like, what does the organization look like today? But this is kind of, what does the organization need to look like through its growth and evolution? And so now you've got all these roles with the accountability, and then the next step, Rich, is to plug in a person's name in these accountability boxes, if you will. And what typically we'll find an individual's name in multiple roles. And so what that does is it gives us a better perspective of just how many hats everyone is wearing, where the gaps are, where do we need to grow? And then it helps us answer the question, well, who should we hire next, based upon a perspective that gives us an opportunity to say, holy cow, Rich, you're wearing 17 hats. You need some relief, because some of these are really critical roles, and that can influence the decision to hire someone based upon what the organization needs as a whole, not what we may feel we need from an emotional perspective, right? The technicians are like, oh, we need more engineers, we need more technicians. Well, when you have an accountability chart, that'll become clear, right? If we have, technicians and engineers that are doing many multiple roles or maybe exceeding their capacity, then that will help us justify those decisions. But it also gives us an opportunity to look at the entire organization and make sure that we're aligning those hiring and promotion decisions as best fits the future growth strategy of the organization.
Yeah, I really like this. I've never gone through this particular exercise myself, and I can imagine somebody thinking, well, I already kind of know this, don't I? But I could totally see how this would make things that you may or may not know visible. And the best example is the one that you provided where, Ed, the technician Ed, shows up 12 times on the chart, and you kind of knew Ed was a busy guy and an important part of the organization. Until you see it that way, you don't fully appreciate how overworked that person is. And going through this exercise is going to allow you to recognize people who have maybe been going above and beyond and making an extra contribution, and recognize that with them, maybe reward them for that, maybe relieve them of some of that overwork. And like you said, it's also going to help you identify where you are maybe over-resourced and under-resourced, and make smarter investment decisions going forward. And the key to the whole thing is it just makes it much easier to see. So very interesting suggestion.
Yeah, and I think another benefit, and it's super valuable. Another benefit is obviously once you've created the accountability chart, and now you have the roles and the activities that each role needs to accomplish, or the milestones and the activities that they're supposed to do. It takes the emotion out of measuring performance, because now you can measure performance based upon what that role requires to be accomplished. And it takes kind of some of that emotion and some of that, I think, angst about, having reviews with someone where, sometimes they have no control over being able to do these things because they're wearing so many hats, right? So it just allows us to get to another level of maturity. And it's an exercise that I conduct with every single one of my consulting clients. It's very valuable.
It's a great point. An accountability chart is going to make very clear what people are accountable for. So great advice, Eric. And it leaves us with time for just one more story this week. And speaking of people being maybe overworked or underworked, seems like we've actually done a number of different stories in recent weeks or months, Eric, about what some people may or may not consider the perfect job. I think at some point, just within the last few weeks, we were talking about a company that was hiring somebody to taste candy. So here's another job, may or may not be your idea of a dream job. It comes to us from Japan, where someone named Shoji Morimoto, I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly, he's 38 years old. He is a resident of Tokyo, and he charges 10,000 yen, which comes out to about $71 per booking, to accompany clients and just be there with them. He's basically getting paid 71 bucks per booking to do nothing but be with you somewhere. And he said, I'm quoting from a Reuters story about this. Basically, I rent myself out. My job is to be wherever my clients want me to be and do nothing in particular. 71 bucks a shot, Eric, to do nothing in particular. I think I might be qualified for this gig.
Yeah, I may talk to my kids about that gig, because sometimes they kind of hang out and do nothing here. So
why not get paid?
Yeah, why not get some pay?
Well, folks, that is all the time we have for you this week on the 5-Minute Roundup. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you again next week with another episode. You know what? We are both a video and a podcast these days. So if you're watching the video, but you like to listen to podcasts, go to wherever it is that you get your podcasts, whether that's Google or Apple or Spotify or Stitcher, you name it, you're going to find us there. You can subscribe, you can rate, review. We would appreciate all of that. If you are listening to the podcast, but you're curious to check out the video, best thing to do is go to the ChannelPro Network channel on YouTube. Once again, you can become a subscriber there. And if you click that bell icon, we'll even notify you when the new episodes go up. If you want to read more about this new alerts module from Gradient MSP, you also just want to get great business growth advice for your company on a daily basis, please visit channelpronetwork.com every day. We've got great new material for you there every day. To learn more about Eric and the work he does with his clients, you're going to want to visit ericksimpson.com. That is ERICK Simpson.com. Once again, folks, we thank you for joining us. Please enjoy the rest of your week. Eric and I are enjoying the rest of your week. Already.
Ready.